Hello everyone and welcome to another video here on White Coats and Corgis. Today I wanted to go more in depth answering a question that I get all the time on my Instagram, which is how would you advise a first year medical student to study knowing what you know now as a second year medical student? And I love this question because I have definitely changed my approach to studying quite a bit from my first exam in medical school to where I am now. I think a lot of the strategies that work for people in undergrad tend to not really be effective in medical school just because we don't have the time to be as detail oriented and kind of going over every little thing in medical school. It's just kind of impossible to do that. And so I think it takes a lot of strategy and planning to really find a method that's going to work well for you and allow you to use your time effectively. So with that in mind, I have 5 study strategies that I'm going to share with you today that I think are worth trying out during your first year of medical school to figure out what's going to work best for you and your learning style. So my first tip that I think really is going to apply to everyone is to really invest in a study space that is going to be conducive to learning. So some of the things that I did to really enhance my study space is number one, I got a standing desk, and this has been really nice so I don't have to just be sitting in my chair all day. I can get up, stand, stretch. This has been really, really nice and helped with my productivity as well as just overall health. I also invested in a good chair with lumbar support so that way I can be comfortable. I'm sitting at my desk for a good portion of the day. The other thing is getting a laptop stand. I think that this is really nice too to make sure that you're not craning your neck and kind of having a hard time seeing what's on the screen. And the other thing that is not absolutely necessary, but I think is nice, is just to decorate it, make it cute, have some accessories that remind you of why you love medicine, because there's definitely some times where you're not going to feel like studying, and I think having cute little things like that in my desk, in my office, helps kind of with morale when the studying gets really long and really tough. And of course, you guys all know that I absolutely love corgis. I have a corgi pup named Phoebe, and a lot of my desk items are very inspired by her. So I've got my little AirPods corgi case and my corgi glasses stand for my blue light glasses. Alright, so on to my first real study tip, which is to really try to figure out what material is high yield out of everything you're being given in your lectures. So a lot of the problems that people have in the first year of medical school is that they can't identify what material is high yield and most likely to appear on their exams and also on boards, right, like USMLE Step 1. So I think that for me, I personally really struggled with this because I had no way of knowing what was high yield, and I was kind of spending an equal amount of time on everything, which is a very bad idea strategically in medical school. And so eventually I realized that first aid is a really good guide in terms of what is going to be high yield for both exams and for boards. So I think that going through first aid, seeing what material is in there, and then comparing that to your lecture material is a really good way to gauge where you should be spending your time when you're figuring out what to prioritize in your studying. And then once you're able to figure out what that high yield material is, this brings me to my next tip number 3. You want to really try to draw out the material and make some sort of a note sheet to take that really important high yield material and make sure that it is cemented into your brain in a way that you're going to remember on exams and hopefully be able to take with you into board studying as well. So I have some examples here of note sheets that I've made for my various classes throughout the first and second years of medical school, and I think one of the things that's really been helpful for me is being able to use an iPad or just any tablet that has the ability to create mixed media note sheets. So I use Notability. There's a lot of different apps out there that can do this, but I like to try to incorporate some of the images from my lecture material, especially if it's something very visual like histology. and then color code it and combine it in ways that make sense for my brain. So that way, when I'm taking my exams, I can remember the color of the thing that I was taking notes on and the location of where it was on my note sheet. I'm a very visual learner, and so this has been really, really helpful for me to take something that is very just monotone on a lecture slide and turn it into something that is going to fit better into my brain and just really be more accessible during exams. The other thing I really like about creating these note sheets is that I can very easily combine the lecture material from my class notes with notes that I'm taking from third-party resources like First Aid and other USMLE Step 1 prep materials, because I think that it's very important to see the big picture and really find those high-yield points, and sometimes your lecture doesn't always emphasize what is going to be emphasized on your board exams. So I find it really helpful to kind of synthesize those two different sources of kind of class material versus board prep and make sure that I am getting the full picture during those courses. So as I'm going through hematology, I want to know everything there is to know about hematology, both for my lecture material and for my board exams. In addition to making my own note sheets based on the lecture material that is being covered in my classes, I also love to use some third-party resources as well. And that brings me to today's sponsor, Picmonic. I have been using visual mnemonics to memorize the vast amounts of information that my medical school is asking us to remember almost since the beginning of first year, and I honestly wish I had known about it from the very first day. How it works is Picmonic will create these cute little stories and like really memorable characters and situations that are going to help you remember different facts that you're supposed to know for your medical school classes and different exams like the MCAT and USMLE Step 1 and 2. Each video is about 2 to 4 minutes in length, and what's really cool is they use the same symbols across different videos to help you connect the dots when there are similarities and differences between the different diseases and pathophysiologies that you're supposed to learn. What's also really nice is that Picmonic continuously updates their videos, so if there is a change that needs to be made, it will be reflected in the updated videos section. So you can see if there have been any recent changes to videos, so that way you can keep up with the most up-to-date current medical knowledge. And in addition to all these videos that you can access here on the homepage, at the very bottom there's a row of pre-recorded webinars that are also super helpful as well. So now I'm going to move us over to the search tab where we can either search for videos directly if you know what topic you're covering in school, for example, or you want to look up a video to see if there's one on a very specific drug or specific disease. But you can also use the browse tool to just look at their content library and choose based on a variety of categories that they already have listed out for you. Alright, and last but not least, tip number 5, you definitely want to learn how to use Ankey, but I would suggest really finding a way to use Ankey that works best for you. So this is what my Ankey looks like. I have really tried a lot of different strategies with Ankey, and for me, organizing it by system is really the thing that has worked the best so far. So as you can see, I've got a couple different categories. So up at the top here, I've got all my cards for step 1, and then under that, I've got a couple different resources that I plan on using once I actually get into my board prep. So those are all listed at the top, and then I've got my individual subjects that I go through every block that I do in medical school. So I've got biochemistry, cardiology, right? Everything that is built into my medical school's curriculum is listed here, and I have divided up all of the Ankey deck into those different categories, so that way I can very easily do the cards that are associated with the block that I'm in medical school. So the reason I think this organization works really well is I can see how many cards I have to get through total, and that makes it a little bit easier for me to judge my time and kind of plan out how much time I want to devote to Ankey. That being said, I definitely don't finish all of my Ankey cards ever, and I think that it's not necessary to finish them because you will have time built in to study for step 1, so you definitely don't have to do everything in the block that you're in, but for me it's kind of the goal. It's something that I would like to strive towards. And I think that what's also nice about using the Ankey deck is that, again, it really shows you what the high yield material is. So if you're wondering where you want to spend your time out of all the things you've been learning in lecture, that's a really good place to start, because I have found that consistently, if I study the things in the Ankey deck, things from first aid, things from Picmonic, all these different third-party resources that are preparing you for step one, it's doing a really good job of also preparing you for your medical school exams, because that's the high yield material. That's what they're most likely to cover on your exams in addition to board exams. So these are my top 5 study strategies that I would highly recommend trying out your first semester of medical school. These strategies really helped me a lot, and I hope they're helpful for you as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.